Uh, Moving ahead, when we talk about software product management in general, there are typically 3 to 4 kind of PM roles that you'd find in any kind of company, right? There are growth PMs, there are platform PMs, there are data PMs, and there are horizontal PMs. Horizontal PM will not find a mention in many of these uh, YouTube videos, etc. But it's an important nuance, and we'll find this kind of a role existing in multiple major companies, right? Um, Now, how does the expectation and role differ slightly across this kind of different PM roles? In a growth role, your focus primarily becomes how do you optimize the conversion funnel, right? And your metrics primarily depend on what is the user engagement, how do I grow my user base, how do I optimize my funnel, let's say conversion funnel or engagement funnel. Those will be your key metrics that will be chasing day in and day out. And in order to achieve those metrics, you have to showcase some important skills or traits as a PM, right? You have to be very good in terms of understanding the underlying users' motivations, what his pain points are. You have to be very good in design thinking, identifying innovative ways to kind of address the user pain point, understanding user psychology, so you know how to convince him to move ahead in the funnel, or how do you make him activate in your journey. You have to understand nuances of how do you market a product, how you launch and drive adoption for a particular product, because you'll be launching new features and new products every now and then. So you have to drive adoption. Launching products is not enough, right? Finally, you have to drive adoption. You have to make people use the feature or product that you're launching. You have to be good at doing product marketing as well. And when you do that, you engage a lot in terms of doing user research, working a lot with design and UX teams. You do a lot of continuous A/B experiments, because you conduct maybe hundreds of experiments, and some experiments succeed, some experiments fail, and some of those successful experiments give you enormous amount of metrics improvement, right? So you do a lot of experimentation continuously, and you work a lot with kind of design, sales, marketing, and analytics folks while you're doing this. As a platform PM, your focus shifts slightly away from the user and becomes more in terms of how do you build a long-term platform? How do you build a SaaS product of sorts, right? Um, um, while I was talking through is like, let me give you also some examples, right? When I talked about growth PM, an example from the e-commerce industry, right? If you, let's say you are owning a particular category, you are a PM for the grocery category, right? Um, the entire shopping funnel looks more or less similar to any other category, right? Within grocery also, you search for products, you add certain products to your cart, and you make the payment and complete the order, right? But there are a lot of nuances. For example, in grocery, you don't compare products. You don't involve a lot in doing research, right? So your funnel needs to be optimized to cater to these nuances, right? A grocery PM will be understanding how this category and how the shopping journey for this category looks different from other categories, and do UX optimizations, journey optimizations for that particular category. When you're thinking about a platform PM, your focus shifts slightly to build a generic product, right? For example, catalog in an e-commerce ecosystem. When I say catalog is basically the platform which at one end you get all of content from sellers and manufacturers in terms of product related information, inventory, price, everything. And at the other end, you power all of this information on the shopping journey for a customer, right? Now, if I'm selling t-shirts today versus tomorrow, I want to start selling, let's say, automobiles on Flipkart, I need to build a platform which can do either of these, right? I can actually sell t-shirts as well as sell automobiles online, right? So what are the kind of capabilities I build in the platform so that it scales up to the use cases and business models that come up in the future? That becomes your focus, right? You focus a lot in terms of building a simple platform which is easy to get onboarded into. It's a reliable platform so that it is highly scalable, it is available, it doesn't kind of crash during peak periods or peak traffic times, all of that, right? And as a platform PM, you work a lot with engineering teams, architect teams to prepare platform blueprints, do a lot of documentation. For example, a PM who is working in let's say Postman, right, who is working and building an API led ecosystem, right? He has to do a lot of documentation in how do you use the products that the company is building. You have to also evangelize the platforms that you're building so that you onboard more teams and more companies to use your product in the longer term, right? The third nuance is the data PM, right? Now, when you're a data PM, your focus shifts slightly towards how do I use data and leverage data to build more futuristic models, right? Like either in terms of predicting certain nuance, certain things, like let's say I want to do a sales projection for a particular category in e-commerce, or I want to build a intelligence layer in terms of how do I profile customers. Right? Let's say I'm building a user insights platform, right? I want to know based on browsing behavior whether he's a male or a female, what might be the age group of the customer that is browsing on Flipkart, right? And I can use all of this data to start personalizing the experience for that customer while he's shopping on Flipkart. So as a data PM, your focus shifts primarily to understanding data, building intelligent products on top of that data, using data science techniques and a lot of analytical models. And these models or these products eventually get used by a growth PM or a platform PM to further optimize the funnel, right? Let's say, for example, I build a user preference model. Like I, as a user, I build an intelligence. I, as a user, prefer, let's say, buying branded products over unbranded products. Now, a search platform PM would come to me, ask for this data, and optimize the search experience to drive better conversion, right? If show me kind of branded products when I'm shopping on Flipkart versus someone else who is coming to Flipkart, so unbranded products, because he might be price sensitive, might be a price sensitive customer. So as a data PM, we work with a lot of analytics and data science folks in kind of building these models and evaluating these models and kind of making the right trade-off calls. A lot of times your models take a lot of time to build. Models might not be accurate for a lot of customer cohorts, and you as a PM need to help data scientists kind of make these trade-off calls. The last type of PM role is a horizontal PM, where basically, and the example I've taken here is, let's say, seller NPS, right? NPS is a key customer facing metric that everyone tracks in the industry. It stands for Net Promoter Score. So a lot of factors influence your customer or seller NPS, right? And the ownership of NPS as a metric is not kind of owned by a particular individual. It generally spans across multiple product and individual PMs. Sometimes when you lack the focus to optimize on a certain metric like NPS, you start having a central PM who works as a horizontal PM, who work with individual platform product PMs to optimize different factors which contribute to NPS kind of a metric, right? So typically you'd see PMs working or optimizing on either of these kind of nuances. I'll just kind of pause here. I think there's a lot of data on this slide, so I'll let you kind of consume it quickly before I move on. So broadly, the takeaway is that although the general PM skill sets kind of apply across the board, but depending on the role that you are in, you prioritize and you need certain skill sets to be more important versus some